Hello, everyone. Welcome to This Is Why We Stand. My name is Joe Archino, and I was inspired to make this series because of the stance that many have taken not to stand and honor the American flag. And whether you're totally new to this series or if you've been following along with it for a while, the goal of it is to make everyone understand that the flag represents sacrifice and the sacrifice of our service members. And that's why, to me, it's so important to make this series and continue with it, because there are people in our country who still don't understand what that flag really represents. And I think more than anything, with the number of increasing protests that you see, people who turn to burning the American flag, which I think there's no greater disgrace than doing that. Because again, that flag represents the sacrifice that our country is built on. And we have never had a shortage of people willing to sacrifice for us. I am here in this world today because of the sacrifices of others, just like you and everyone else are. The people who sacrificed for our country, they did it for all of us. They didn't look at it in terms of our race or in terms of our socioeconomic status. They sacrificed for us to create a better world so that we could be free and live the ideals that our country was built upon. But every single episode, we target one specific service member, their incredible accomplishments, and the sacrifice that they made for our country. This episode is no different. We are talking about Joseph Vittori, who was a United States Marine who paid the ultimate sacrifice for us in the Korean War and is a Medal of Honor recipient. We've really talked so much about Medal of Honor recipients, and I see no reason why we shouldn't continue doing so, because I think one of the biggest extraordinary things is you go up and down the list, you read anybody who's been awarded the Medal of Honor in our nation's history, you will be at a loss of words trying to understand and comprehend how these individuals were able to muster the strength and courage to come out of these situations. Now, some people were not able to come out of the situations, but nonetheless, they defied all the odds and did things that are just not they're outside any semblance of normalcy. And for people to do something like that, they would have to strongly believe in what they're doing without a doubt. Because when you put your life on the line, have to be totally in full command and belief of what you're fighting for. And Joseph Vittori is one of those people. Now, back to his Medal of Honor citation. Again, he unfortunately fell in combat because of where the Medal of Honor award he was awarded. His family received it before him, but in 1951, during the Korean War, there was a battle for a hill, and it was Hill 749. Now, United States forces had been steadily pushing up the hill until they were driven back by a North Korean counterattack. Vittori and he took two volunteers with him, and they basically charged at the counterattack, forcing the counterattack to basically break apart and allowing U.S. forces to continue their assault. I think more than anything, that sounds impressive enough. But after that, Vittori then volunteered to defend a machine gun position on the northern part of the line. Now, again, this is a hill, so obviously covering all this territory is not easy, but over the course of the line, Vittori volunteered to defend this position. It was almost entirely isolated from the rest of the unit, and then during the engagement that happened on this line, a 100-yard breach was made in the American line. Vittori, he just ran from flank to flank, defending each one, firing on the enemy, going across this. And again, the thing you have to always keep into account here is there's very little help that Vittori has here. He's covering this ground by himself. He's defending the most isolated position, and when you have a position like this, although it's the most isolated, it's the most important, because if that line breaks and the enemy is able to get through that will in turn destroy the entire battalion on the line, because then the enemy could flank you. They could do a number of things, but Vittori was not going to let that happen. And after that, in the pitch black, he held off the enemy and manned the machine gun alone. The gunner was killed, so he took command of the machine gun turret, and he was killed. But the enemy got to within 15 feet of his position, which he held until being mortally wounded. Now, I think the most incredible thing of this whole story is in the morning when his body was discovered, they also discovered 200 enemy dead soldiers in the wake of this battle. Now, Vittori most likely didn't kill all 200 of those people, but it's pretty safe to assume that he was a large number of those killed were because of him. But I think more than anything, his story is just one of the ones that we continue to talk about, and it's like so many of the other ones. This is a soldier who stuck his life out there on the line for everyone else. He was guarding the most isolated position. He held off the position. He took the gunner position when the gunner went down. The enemy was within 15 feet of him. It resorted to hand combat, and he fought until the very end. He took as many down as with him as he could, but he gave the ultimate sacrifice for his country. And I think more than anything, something that tells you even more about Joseph Vittori is he was wounded prior to this engagement, and he was basically put on supply duty. But he would not have any of that. He wanted to be back out in the field with his friends, helping make the difference that he thought he could. He thought he could make all the difference in the world in the field fighting. And most certainly he did, because in his Medal of Honor citation, the Army credits him for basically preventing the entire battalion position from collapsing. And that's exactly what happened. This is a soldier who probably was responsible or assisted in the death of 200 enemy soldiers, kept the U.S. line alive, did whatever he could, and that's what makes the Medal of Honor so special. But more than anything, that's what makes the flag so special, because the flag is the embodiment of men like Joseph Vittori. On this series, we've talked about so many people. Martin Treptow, we've talked about Dirk Vlug, we've talked about you name it. All of these people are different in some way, because we all are different as human beings. But they all were the same in the fact that they believed in their duty to their country, and a lot of them paid sacrifices that none of us will ever have to, because they were willing to do so for us. And to me, that's why I can never stop doing this series, because there is infinite amounts of people who have always believed in the call of duty for our country and have always answered that call for us. But there are so many people in this world who just don't recognize that sacrifice, and they turn to the social injustices of the world or the political injustices of the world to justify their means for not standing for the flag, or for burning the flag, or for not paying respect to our country. But people have to get over things like that and understand that there are things in this world that are bigger than you and I, and the sacrifice that our country is built on is one of those many things. You need to always keep the memory of those who have fallen and sacrificed for us in mind, because without them, we have nothing. And I think that's why it's so important that this series continues. And, there's people who always jump quickly to criticize and use words that aren't in the nicest vocabulary to describe the people who do such a thing. And I think in my younger days, I probably would have been one of those people. But I think you will find that using reason, using logic, using the examples that our fallen have given to us to explain to those people why their actions are so unjust and why they are just so unreasonable, I think that's how you get people to change the way that they feel. I started this series because of Colin Kaepernick and the stance that he took, and it's just continued because I see more and more people following him. But you never want to follow the wrong person in life, and certainly he is the wrong person. But the reason he is wrong is not because of what he's standing up against. He's standing up against social injustice, and I think we all would agree that that's a valid thing to take a stand against. But the manner and the platform he's using is the total wrong one, because he is going against the wrong people. Our country is and always will be built by our service members. It was founded by our military. It has always been preserved by our military, and nothing in that sort will ever change. And it's important that we always remember that. But I can't thank everyone enough for always continuing to support this series. Again, I already have enough passion as it is to continue doing so, but the outpouring of support that people have given me only gives me even more reason to do so. But thank you, everyone. Joe Archino here with This Is Why We Stand. I will be back again soon.